Hi, I'm Lovoni.
And I'm Sarah, and welcome to the Lovoni and Sarah Podcast, where we talk all things weight loss and well-being. We have a special guest today on our episode. Greg is joining us and sharing with us how, when faced with a health issue, he had to make some radical changes to his diet. He shares with us how he turned something that at the time seemed so negative into a positive by getting creative and changing his approach to food, finding a new passion, and the transformation that he's had on his health and his overall way of life. Welcome, Greg. I'm just going to give a quick update to everybody. We're not going to do an update on our goals this week because we're recording episodes back to back, so we don't have an update for you. So we're going to dive straight into the episode. Thanks for joining us, Greg. To let everybody know, Greg and I are family members. We're cousins, so I know Greg very, very well. And I asked him to come along today because we had a chat at a family event, didn't we, Greg, back in June, and just talked about just the change that it's had on your life, what you were faced with and how you've changed it. And I said, this is great for people to share, to listen. So asked you to come on. So thank you for joining us today. Probably the best thing to start with is, do you want to describe how your lifestyle was before? Well, no, let's describe what happened, how you started to feel unwell and what kind of sort of symptoms you were having.
Yeah, sure. Well, basically, it all came on after sort of Christmas and New Year, about 7 or 8 years ago now.
Right.
And I started to get, it was literally, I woke up one morning and I had what I'd probably describe as like heartburn, upper sort of acid indigestion, sort of just some, it was like that, just literally like indigestion, but quite intense. And I thought nothing of it. And it just carried on and carried on and carried on. And I found whatever I ate was causing me the same issue. After about a week, I went to the doctors about it, and I had lots of tests done, had it checked out properly, which is always worth doing if you have any sort of indigestion. I should probably add.
Absolutely.
And everything looked normal. There was no sign of anything bad going on. And carried on for a while, just my same eating habits, my same lifestyle, which I didn't realise was quite unhealthy at the time. And it just seemed to get worse and worse, really. So it shook me up a little bit. And I said to myself, well, everything looks okay. There's nothing, from
which
a medical point of view. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, could have been a lot worse. And I just decided that, actually, what's going on here? I think my body is just saying to me, I can't go on like this. Looking back, there was probably a reason for that. My lifestyle was very unhealthy.
Okay.
And were you overweight, Greg? Was that?
Yeah,
overweight?
I was. I was about, in UK terms, I was about 18 stone when I got to my heaviest. So I don't know what in terms of.
I'm going to just do a quick calculation for the
just to give
American
a little bit
listeners.
of context on that for you, though, Lovoni. Greg is, were you 6'5", are you, or 6'6"?
I'm 6'5", yeah.
6'5".
So okay.
So I've got a lot of height there.
You
as
could
well.
carry
right.
it. So as much as technically you were obviously a lot heavier.
Right.
You weren't someone who.
It's not like you're like 5'8" or something.
No.
Yeah.
No, the height in my family comes from this.
Right.
My son's really tall as well. So that side of the family. So you could carry it. So actually, that's quite interesting.
252 pounds. That is
252. Okay. I think if someone looked at you, they wouldn't automatically go,
just 114 kilos for the metric people out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we done? We're on it.
We're done now. Yeah.
You wouldn't visibly think that you were overweight, but obviously you were carrying a lot more weight than you are now. Yeah.
But I when I went to the doctors, every time I go there, that he would say to me, actually, you are in the high end of the overweight scale, and I always just, I kind of thought, well, I'm young, next time I'll be lighter. And actually I wasn't. Every time I went, I was a little bit more, and I couldn't run. I could run. I played a little bit of football, but I couldn't run anything longer than about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just that, though. It was my eating habits. My big vice was, on my days off, was having a few beers, often quite late in the evening, watching a football match or something like that. But then not just that, I would eat, snacks with it. So I love beer and crisps. And you know, one beer and crisp would turn into 2 beers and more crisps, and so on and so on. And I'd probably do that on all my days off, you know, and I would eat late at night, quite late at night, and the things I ate weren't healthy. You know, I'd eat a lot of unhealthy foods.
What did breakfast look like?
That's a good question. I did like fry-ups, which in the UK, you know, like English breakfast, where eggs, bacon, anything like that.
Half of me is English. Yes.
yeah. I you know, it's that sort of breakfast,
beans,
you know, breakfast,
sausages.
That sort of thing. Yeah, and breakfast would often turn into a sort of a whole grazing event. It wouldn't just be breakfast. I'd then go on and have a snack with breakfast, and then before you knew it, I'd be having lunch. And I would just eat throughout the day. You know, I'd snack probably several times in the morning. I'd have a big lunch, big breakfast, then I'd snack again in the afternoon, and that would keep going through to quite late at night when I'd have a big meal. And you know, when I lived on my own, that would be a really big meal. I had a real issue with portion sizes. I would, you know, the meals I prepared for myself would probably have fed 2, if not 3 people.
Yeah, but it's so easy there.
Sounds American.
Yeah. You know, it was that sort of size of portions I was doing for myself. And like you say, it's so easy.
Yeah.
You know, when you're hungry, or if you have a good appetite, when you're preparing your meal, you think, yeah, I'll eat all of that. And you might get through eating all of it, and your body is starting to feel quite full up. But because the food is there that you prepared, you will eat it.
You just keep finishing it off.
Yeah. So my eating window would go from quite early in the morning through to quite late at night. I'd have a lot of unhealthy habits. You know, especially when I was at work, I'd drink 4 or 5 cups of coffee, strong coffee a day, maybe more. You know, which isn't the end of the world. Coffee, I don't think it is particularly bad for you. But
no.
I think just on top of everything else I was eating,
and it's acidic too.
It is, which was contributing massively to the indigestion symptoms I was getting.
Okay, that's interesting.
I was told about.
Yeah.
So what was the wake-up call? Like, what they finally found that there was an issue, obviously, or did you just decide to do something about your diet?
The wake-up call was my symptoms, because they were hard to live with. They would, you know, I would have this indigestion constantly throughout the day, and it made meal times. I wanted to eat, but it made meal times quite difficult, and it would affect me at night. It'd affect my sleep a lot. And it was just very uncomfortable. It was a really severe burning in my chest. And I get it in my lower tummy as well. And yeah, it was really uncomfortable. And there was a big part of me that was worried, you know, is something really wrong with me here?
Right.
So and you know, at the time I was in my late 20s, I think I just decided, right, perhaps I've got to do something here. You know, I can't go on like this. It was that uncomfortable.
So that was a pretty radical, sorry, Sarah.
Okay.
No, that was a pretty radical change in your diet then.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
I've changed my diet massively, hugely as a result of it. Basically, I was put on medication to help with it, which was, you know, it's common medication, but I was taking quite a lot of the medication, which I wasn't that comfortable with. And I think I decided I want to try and get to a point where I can manage this as naturally as I can, because in my mind, it was my body saying, I can't do this anymore. You know, this is just unsustainable. And it was the first time probably in my life that I'd had that sort of inner body conversation where I said, you know, actually I've got to listen to myself here, because something's not quite right. This isn't normal for someone in their 20s.
We talked about the fact that when that kind of moment hit you, that actually there was like almost a bit of a low period throughout that. It was almost like that, obviously the realization of having to make a change, but the acceptance that your old life is not going to be that way anymore, which sounds a little bit odd, because obviously it's quite inspirational, empowering, exciting to make these changes and know that you're on the path to making a better life for yourself. But there's almost that sort of like overwhelming, like, I can't do that anymore. I can't do what I've always done. And I'm going to kind of miss it in a weird way, because I've always done it. We talked about that, didn't we? And I think you described a bit of a low period actually during that time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There really was a low period. I think after it happened, I mean, Sarah, you know me really well. You've seen me growing up. I loved my food and my drink,
Yes.
and it was my life. I was well, I still am a big foodie, but I was, if I was going to do a Christmas list 15 years ago, most of the items on it would have been food or drink related.
Christmas was always a big thing in our family.
Yeah, big being the operative word. Yeah,
yeah.
And we still do. Special occasions I still do. But yeah, I think there was a big period of acceptance for me where I sort of, I think I didn't want to accept it. I knew deep down I had to make dietary changes. I needed to change my lifestyle, but I just couldn't accept it. I was thinking, well, what am I going to do? I can't eat that. It's my favorite food. I can't have that beer. I love having a beer. And I think there was a big part of me. It took probably over a year for me to come to sort of acceptance. Actually, I've got to change things here. And I did feel I was down about it for about a year. I was sort of, I did, I think I had that light at the end of the tunnel that actually, maybe this is a good thing that this has happened. So that kept me going through it. But it was for a while. Yeah, it was a realization that actually, I've got to change. And that did get me quite down for a bit. Yeah.
So what was the process? Like, did you eliminate certain things from your diet? And, like, how long did it take you then once you started to notice the difference? So you thought, oh yeah, that food, I can't have that, or that drink, because it just, flares everything up. Sorry.
It was basically getting as much information as I could to begin with. I had really good healthcare with work, so I was able to go and see a good sort of gastro doctor who talked quite a lot about nutrition. So he gave me some tips on it. And he went through things, acidic foods, and talked about my eating habits. So we talked about, do I eat early in the morning? Is my eating irregular? Do I eat late at night? And he went through a sort of key list of things that would probably set it off. And there's for me at the time, there were some of the nicest things in my life. So coffee, alcohol, fatty foods, spicy foods, tomatoes, a lot of things that I really loved eating and drinking. So I targeted them first, and then went through just a process of elimination, really, and found that, what was particularly bad, what was particularly good.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah told me about your gardening, your veggie gardening. And I will leave the link for Greg's Instagram if that's all right, because Greg grows his own veggies, and it's awesome. I mean, that's fantastic. But is that something you did prior to this?
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, I've always, I've been into it since I was quite a young lad. So
how old were you when you got the allotment, Greg?
I was 18 when I got an allotment.
Oh, were you? It seems it seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was I was probably about 30 years younger than everyone else down there at the time. It's a lot more trendy now. It's much more trendy now. But it was. So yeah, I from the age of about 18, I was doing a lot of vegetable growing on my allotment, and I still do it now. I've always had a bit of a thing for it, really. I think, my dad always grew tomatoes and beans in me. I think it came from there, probably.
Well, it came from our grandfather. Our grandpa was a very keen gardener too. So I think that, and he spent a lot of time in detail. I mean, he was an engineer mindset, so he was very, everything was very pristine. But I think it's probably come down from that to obviously your dad, my uncle, and then through to you. So it's really nice. I think that particularly for young people, because as you say, it's a lot sort of more fashionable now. But when you were 18, not that was a very long time ago, Greg, but when you were 18, that wasn't the sort of thing that perhaps a young person would do, is it? So I think that's really cool. I really like how, and you passing that on to your son too. He's really interested, isn't he?
Yeah, he loves it. And I'm really keen to, because there's something really nice about it. I think the great thing about growing your own is that it forces you to eat seasonally, and it's something that we just don't do enough. I've just been walking through the supermarket this morning looking at things, and I was scratching my head just thinking, so much of this stuff is out of season, and lo and behold, you look at where it comes from and it's been flown in halfway across the world. So the nice thing about growing it yourself is that quite often you end up with things that you're not necessarily wanting to eat, but because you've grown it, you think, I'm going to cook that.
Yeah.
And as a result, you've cooked seasonally, and that's fantastic. You know, good for you from a health point of view, because you're going to be eating something healthy because it's fresh. You know what you've put into it, but you know, great for the environment as well, because it travels literally from your garden or your allotment. So yeah, there's so many benefits to it.
Did you find that helped you? Like when you had to change your diet, growing your own vegetables, did you find that helped?
It really has, yeah. Because for a start, it gets you active. So for me, I found it a great source of, you know, activity and way to burn the calories off, because that was one of the things I was told, is that it would really help my symptoms if I lost some weight. So that helped immensely. But you know, you're putting the activity in, but you're also getting out of it a lot of healthy things to eat, which generally speaking, probably apart from tomatoes, which I really can't get on with now. Everything I produce is good for my symptoms. So yeah, definitely helped.
And your wife is vegetarian too, isn't she?
Yeah, Lucy is, yeah.
You know, perfect. Because actually, now that you've embraced this complete lifestyle change, I should imagine it's actually quite helpful, because you're very, not that you're vegetarian, but you're very sort of parallel in your approach to foods now.
Yeah, it is. You know, and there's a lot of things I wouldn't have eaten, you know, had I not met Lucy, because she's really introduced me to some really nice dishes, and you know, vegetarian things which are delicious. I think I feel a bit sorry for her, because I can't eat tomatoes, and tomatoes are a big part of so many
right.
But we work around it, and it just makes you eat slightly differently, which is never a bad thing.
Do you find that you've got more creative in the kitchen because of this change in your diet?
Yeah, I have.
Excuse me.
I think the thing that's changed most for me with the diet, and the thing which has really made the weight drop off for me, is my kitchen habits. So I have this rule now where I fast a little bit in the morning when I wake up, which is controversial. I don't necessarily think it's, you know, what everyone would advocate. And, you know, if I've got an early morning start at work, obviously I'll eat something before I go to work. But what I try and do is eat within a sort of 8 to 9 hour window during the day. And that just came about because of my symptoms. I found if I was eating late at night, I'd get the terrible indigestion when I was sleeping. And I found, this took a few years to find out, that if I fasted in the morning, my symptoms were 3-4 times better during the day. So I try not to eat before 10 o'clock in the morning, and I try and close the kitchen at 6 in the evening. So that's what's changed the most, is my kitchen discipline. Whereas before, I'd be in the kitchen as soon as I woke up, eating something, you know, out of the bread bin or out of the fridge. And in the evening, I'd be in there after dinner, you know, scrapping around, picking things out. I'd get the crisps out, I'd get the nuts out. And I think when all the weight started dropping off, that's what I realised was it was my kitchen discipline that was making it happen. Because there's only so much you can eat within an 8 hour window. If you close the kitchen at 6 in the evening, for me, I was getting rid of so many calories, empty calories, eating in the evening. So it was that really that's changed. I haven't necessarily got more creative. I've just had to eliminate a few things and change my discipline in the kitchen.
It's a lot to constantly keep eating. You know, once upon a time there was that mindset of, oh, you're supposed to eat, you know, every few hours. And I don't know where people come up with these things, but fasting is good for your body because it gives it, I mean, you know, that's a lot that it has to keep processing constantly. Whereas if you close that window, you know, it helps with your anybody that has like high blood sugar. It certainly helps, with that. And it's just easier on your body. I mean, eating constantly, your body is then having to
tiring,
you know, has to digest all of that. And that's just a whole lot of work for it. So I mean, there is a lot to be said for fasting.
So when you
Yeah.
were faced with this moment, and obviously you went through the sort of the lower ebb of
Excuse me.
coming into the acceptance of, you know, the old way of life. And again, we did talk about this, and obviously what you're describing now is such a positive way of, you've got control of your lifestyle with regards to your food and the times that you eat and what you're cooking. Did that feel like a real sort of shift from one to the other, or was it sort of mediocre, as in, do you think, oh, well, I'm comfortable with it now? Or do you feel very positive? When we spoke, you sort of said, this is such a positive thing that's happened to me. You seem energized by it.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't instantaneous. It was very gradual. I think the biggest thing I sort of mourned a little bit was not being able to drink alcohol anymore. And initially I thought, I'm going to have to drink less alcohol. And every time I did, I found my symptoms were horrific. So I drank less and less, and that did get me really down, because I was literally waving goodbye to a thing. I loved, I loved my wines. I was very into my wines. I was really into sort of my beers, my craft beers, and so that really was like waving bye to a very dear friend, and that's a lot of getting used to. I think it was only about 2 years ago that I completely said, right, I'm just going to stop drinking alcohol, full stop, because it just doesn't agree with me. And again, my body's telling me. So it was only, I've had the symptoms. Well, I started having the symptoms 8 years ago. I say it's only 2 years ago that I've really started to see some sort of acceptance in myself, and probably only in the last year and a half to the last year where I've started to think, wow, this actually has been something an opportunity here I've been given. Never ever would have gone down this road had I not had the symptoms in the first place. I definitely wouldn't be here. I'd be my same weight, so I'd still be where I was back. So so now there's some really big positive. I see it now as a positive thing. I'm 4.5 stone lighter, so I'm about 14 stone. Just under 14 stone, and I stay there now. Even if I go on holiday and let my hair down a little bit, if I come back and get back into my 8-hour window, not drinking alcohol, I'll go back to my steady weight within about 2 weeks. Don't have to go to the gym all the time, just live my normal lifestyle where I do quite a bit of walking, but eat within that window. So that for me is incredible. I feel like I've really discovered something brilliant for my health going forward there.
Oh, sorry, go on.
And the other thing, I think, I was talking about how I used to love my wine and my beer. I've started to realise that actually I think I went from being really upset about it to thinking actually not drinking is probably quite a close second to drinking and having my beer and wine. Now I'm at a place where I think, actually, do you know what? I'm really quite proud and happy to not be drinking, because there's so much I gain from it. I never have hangovers now. So Sunday mornings, Saturday mornings, or my days off, I go out for a walk in the morning before I have my breakfast. And
particularly with a very bouncy toddler.
So if I've been hungover in any stretch, and I used to get hangovers after just having one beer, so that's completely gone from my life. From a cost point of view, I spend so much less now because I don't have to buy alcohol, and it's the eating that came with the alcohol, the snacks that came with it, that's completely gone now, which is another big reason why the weight stays off me. And so, it's given me so many big things. I think I started doing 10K runs in the last few years. I never thought I'd do a 5K run, and to do a 10K and possibly more one day, that's been a massive thing that's come out of it. So I look at it now and think, well, actually it's not been a bad thing at all.
What about did you notice, apart from the fact that you lost weight, but did your eyes seem clearer? I mean I know that English are notorious for having good skin, but did you notice that your skin, because your skin looks really healthy and clear, and did you notice those sort of things change?
Two things: skin and teeth. That was the big thing.
Really.
My skin has changed so much since I've improved my lifestyle. So much. sometimes I look in the mirror and think, God, have I been using a cream or something? Because
Right. And no, it looks fantastic for people that can't see.
But not in a sort of boasting way. It is like, you know, and I was for a while thinking, why has my skin got so much better? I'm like, is it the shaving foam I'm using? And then something clicked to me recently. It's because, you know, I've just sort of, my diet has become more pure. I eat more natural things. And
can you talk us through what you do eat in a day?
Yeah, sure.
Just an average day.
I've got one, for me, my killer secret, my thing that has really helped me is oatmeal or porridge. So oats. And that's my breakfast, is always porridge. Even if it's, you know, boiling hot outside, I'll be sitting there eating my hot bowl of porridge and everyone will be looking at me like, you know, I've lost the plot. That is just something I have to have for breakfast. So I have a really big bowl of it. I make my own instant oats where I blend oats up in a blender dry.
Oh.
I mix them in with chia seeds, just completely dry, coconut, desiccated coconut, chopped dates, and I keep that in a pot. And every morning I can just make a really instant breakfast. So I take 2 scoops of it, mix it in with oat milk or almond milk, cook it up. It becomes lovely and creamy, and I have a big bowl of that for breakfast.
No brown sugar I'm taking.
No,
I take it.
Maybe a tiny bit of honey if I'm in the mood.
Okay.
With and the thing, I stir in lots of just natural peanut butter, so a whole food peanut butter.
Proteins, right.
Yeah, and that just sets me up for the day. That's my foundation for the day. Yeah, that works really well. Lunch, I just try and have high protein, so with a little bit of carbohydrate. So usually it'd be something like scrambled eggs, poached eggs, just on toast or on a bagel or on a sweet potato.
Nice.
I try and have, if I'm not having eggs, I'll have tuna or some sort of tinned or canned fish, because again, that's a good protein hit. And failing that, I quite often have soup, and just try not to have too much bread with it. That works really well for me. And then I find I can't get through the afternoon without a snack. So I sometimes make up my own sort of cereal bars to keep me going. Sometimes I'll try and have some gluten-free bagels or gluten-free bread in the freezer, and I'll just toast 2 bits of that with some peanut butter and a bit of jam or jelly, which is like a bit of a vice for me in the afternoon. Again, it fills me up till the evening time. And then in the evening time, we just try and, we're fairly flexible, to be honest. That's our main meal. We all come together as a family. So we'll have anything from like a side of fish with some vegetables. We try and have fish a few times a week. It's just think that fish is fantastic. Minerals, calcium, lots of protein. If there is any fat in it, it's good fat.
Yeah.
And lots of boiled vegetables or baked vegetables. Quite often we'll have a jacket potato, a baked potato in the evening. But generally speaking, in the evening, you know, anything goes really. If we feel like something, it doesn't necessarily have to be the healthy. We sometimes have a pizza, but we just have it with lots of salad. Quite often we'll have, you know, just a cooked sort of fish fillet with breadcrumbs on it, with chips. We make our own sort of fish and chips. So that doesn't have to be too prescriptive, the evening meal. And then I finish quite often with a dessert of chia seeds mixed with almond milk, or I go back to and have a bowl of oatmeal, because that just keeps me going then through the evening. I know if I just I really fill myself up at dinner time, but with healthy things. And then, like I said, kitchen closes at 6 o'clock. That's my really strict rule. I know that sounds very prescriptive. I go flexible with that a bit at weekends, and if we go on holiday or if I'm with work. But generally speaking, kitchen shuts at 6 p.m. And
well done.
The only thing I'll have in the evening, if at all, from water is just some herbal tea. And I know that sounds really drastic, and it was to begin with, but after about 6 months, we just went away this weekend, and the only slot we could get in the hotel to eat was at about 8 o'clock in the evening. And I was just sitting there afterwards thinking, I don't feel right. You know, I've got to go to bed in a minute. Whereas that was me every day about, 10 years ago. It's just, that's what's become a habit now. I'm not saying it's necessarily the right way of doing it, but it's what works for me.
Yeah.
And it has made the weight just drop off me. So, I would definitely recommend it if you've got the, if you've got the determination to do that, give it a go.
I can't sleep if I eat too late.
Yeah.
I've discovered this now. I have horrible sleep. Yeah, it's not good.
Really?
It's not good. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Greg, I was just going to say, if you had to give people a bit of a leaving shot of the change of your life, or if people are facing something like this, or the negative to positive, what would your one piece of sort of wisdom that you'd leave with them? What would it be?
Just be kind to yourself and listen to yourself, and face it head on. There's no point sort of shying away from it. I think the body your own body can give you some of the best messages, better than any medical diagnosis or any medical advice. And if your body's telling you something, try and listen to it, and just adjust accordingly. And then when you're ready, just try and take a big picture look at it and say, okay, I've had a knock here. It's changed my lifestyle, but actually, is it all really bad? What are the good things that have come out of it? And if you just persist with it, I'm sure you'll find some improvement. And you may well find along the way that you accidentally find you completely change your lifestyle for the better, which is what I did. I completely stumbled upon this. And it's something I never would have done if I didn't have the symptoms. So don't panic if something happens. Take a big picture look at it, and say, I'll listen to my body and go with it. And I'm sure you'll find down the line, when you look back, you'll think, actually, it's probably worked out for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us.
Thank you. It's been really awesome. Inspirational.
No, thank you.
Next week, Sarah and I are doing a catch up. It'll be post-surgery, so we'll catch up with Sarah, see how she's doing. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please send us a message if there's a subject you'd like us to cover. Visit our website, lovoniandsarah.com, for more on each episode, plus some recipes. Find links in the notes below to connect with us on social media. And if Greg's okay with it, excuse me, I'll leave your Instagram thing to his garden. It's very inspiring. Just a final thought: how you view your diet or changes to your diet and overall health can be a change for the better, but how you're viewing that will greatly impact the outcome. Change that could be perceived as a negative, turn it around. Challenge yourself to try new things, build new habits, learn where your food comes from and what practices it took to get it into your hands. Seek out a more holistic way of feeding yourself and your family. I think attitude is definitely key to success here. So, you definitely changed your attitude, Greg.
We did.
Thanks for sharing that with us. That was awesome.
Really, really great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll talk to everybody next time. Thanks.
Bye now. Bye.